As the GOP leadership is still reeling from a disappointing midterm, we're beginning to see fingers pointing in a particular direction. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking, of course, about Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. The knives appear to be coming out for this guy as GOP leadership goes through a significant post-midterm shakeup, as it were. But first, here's the latest on where we are with the ongoing counting. In the Senate, Republican Adam Laxalt has taken the lead with almost all ballots in, and he's not relinquished that lead for some time now. So that looks pretty good. Arizona with Blake Masters has lots more red vote to count, particularly votes on Election Day. The Republican turnout there was a massive. And Walker and Warnock are officially headed to a runoff in the first week of December. And the good news is those runoffs are almost always bad news for the incumbent in Georgia. So obviously we'll see if historical precedent holds there. In the House, Republicans are still projected to win about a dozen or so seats, which will give them control over Congress. So we'll keep you updated on that as the results trickle in. But in terms of holding leadership accountable, Senator Josh Hawley, campaigning for his fellow Missouri Senate hopeful Eric Schmidt, who did win yesterday. Again, if you haven't seen my first video from this morning, that was the pattern throughout the nation. Red states turned redder and blue states turned bluer. So in effect, we're in a stalemate right now, a national political and cultural stalemate. But at his rally yesterday, Hawley became the first senator to openly call for Mitch McConnell to step down as the Republican Senate leader and make way for some new blood. He cited particularly McConnell's obsession with Ukraine's borders while ignoring our own and his penchant for reckless spending. I'm sure you've heard that there's a lot of chatter to get Senator Rick Scott of Florida to challenge McConnell. Trump himself has given the green light for Rick Scott to make the move to push McConnell out of his leadership position. Of course, we're going to have to see how this all fleshes out, but it's all reflective clearly of a growing frustration with the Rhino Republican establishment, the de facto leadership of the Republican Party that seems as increasingly alienated from the Republican rank and file, the ultra-MAGA base as you can get. Many are concerned that McConnell's funding of Senate candidates across the country is radically erratic and inconsistent, and his recent comments back in September about how the quality of the current crop of Senate candidates left much to be desired and would probably cost them the Senate. I mean, they were considered to be so out of place, so utterly and unnecessarily demoralizing. It was a total lack of any sense of responsible leadership and inspiration. When all is said and done, McConnell comes across as a coward, and nobody follows cowards. So McConnell may end up being the first head to roll here in terms of a post-mortem restructuring of the Republican Party. In terms of that post-mortem, there's plenty being offered here. And I do think that Tim Pool has given us some needed perspective in all this. He tweeted out an NBC breaking news alert that New York Representative Sean Patrick Maloney officially lost his race. And as such, he's the first chairman of the House Democrats campaign arm to lose his own House seat in 42 years. And then Pool made this very insightful comment. It was a bad night for Democrats, in the traditional sense that they did lose a lot of seats. It was a bad night for Republicans because they wanted a bloodbath, but instead only got a win. And he went on to say, it's funny how Republicans won, DeSantis, Abbott, and Kemp won handily, 224 House seats projected. And yet I see leftists mocking the GOP as if they lost and conservatives lamenting the results. The forecast was so bad for Dems that GOP winning this is considered a loss. That's some pretty good perspective here, gang. But I do think we need to assess why it is that the GOP only ended up winning a couple of handful of seats instead of seeing this massive tsunami. That's going to be at the heart of the various postmortems that will be offered in the days ahead. My own assessment, having read a number of these first postmortems offered, my own assessment involves trying to decipher the narrative behind the numbers, as it were. What were the driving factors for the voters that actually turned out yesterday? Because the turnout was huge. We did a whole video on that. But that turnout did not benefit the Republican candidates the way analysts presumed it would. So what's behind that? Well, according to a study by Matthew Continetti over at the Washington Free Beacon, 31% of voters, according to exit polls, named inflation the single most important issue in their vote. Not surprising. But abortion was close behind at 27%. It was the second most important issue. And these voters for whom abortion was the number one issue, they voted for the Democrats by a far greater margin, 76 to 23, than those concerned about inflation, who went for the Republicans 71-28. In the Fox News analysis, 47% of voters said that the economy was the most important issue, while abortion came in a distant second at 10%. Ironically, though, Republicans carried only 31% advantage on the economy, while the Democrats had a near 70% advantage on abortion. Now, you add to that a Fox exit poll that found that independents actually broke for Democrats narrowly. Moderates broke for Democrats by 15 points. And the suburbs narrowly went for Republicans in the national exit poll. So what happened? I think, and again, this is subject to refinement and serious adjustment. I'm very curious of what you think in the comments. I think that Biden's blood red speeches worked. And here's the key. They worked on the right people, the right voters. You see, the key difference between rhinos like Mitch McConnell and ultra-MAGA leaders like Trump is that while McConnell wants to embrace liberal globalism and the globalist system, World Economic Forum and all that, Trump wants to bring it down and destroy it. The ultra-MAGA movement's not just another Republican constituency that seeks to learn how to live cozily within a globalist system. We want to replace that system. We want to bring that system down and return it to a society centered on faith, family, and freedom, national sovereignty, economic nationalism, adherence to traditional values. What Biden seems to have successfully done is convince enough people that the ultra-MAGA threat to bringing down globalism is actually a threat to take down America. In other words, the Democrats, to an extent, successfully recast the Patriots' commitment to overthrow globalism as a threat to overthrow democracy. And where do we see that attempt to overthrow democracy more than in the taking away of a woman's right to choose, the destruction of Roe v. Wade? If that's what they were trying to do, it seemed to work. Women, millennials, Gen Zers came out in droves on Election Day, and they voted for Democrats in droves, all in the name of protecting democracy. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comments below. Obviously, we're going to be continually assessing things in the weeks and months ahead, and I would love to know what you think where we go from here. And I'll make sure to keep you updated as more results come in throughout the day. God bless, gang.